Welcome to this Unitarian Universalist Coastside Community Sunday service. I am Laurel Frischman, and along with Joanne Rakowski and Bill Hevlin, we are your worship associates for today. And a very warm welcome to all of those who are here maybe for the first time or the second time, and also to those of our friends joining us online from Zoom. Unitarian Universalism stands among the liberal faith traditions of this nation, working for social justice, repairing the world, and helping all of us to grow and blossom spiritually. And as a denomination, not just this congregation, but all of our congregations, UU advocates for LGBTQ rights. So whomever you love, whatever paths you have traveled so far, whatever your inspirations, you are most welcome here. For each of you, we see as a most hopeful miracle in our midst. And in each of you, we see the potential to inform us, to challenge us, to nudge each of us forward towards becoming better human beings on this earth and better human beings for this earth. And speaking of better humans, today we warmly welcome Ronnie Boyd to the UUCC pulpit. Her sermon is entitled Hammer, Wood, and Saw, Affordable Housing as Community Practice. Ronnie explores how faith communities are uniquely positioned to help with affordable housing, which is such a need in our community.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I know the theme of this month is equity, so I thought I would share some words from Reverend Kirk Lodeman Copeland called Making Equity a Reality. So equity is the cornerstone of justice and progress. It is the foundation upon which fairness, opportunity, and dignity stand. As we journey toward equity, let us acknowledge the disparities that exist and commit ourselves to dismantling them. May we create a world where every individual has meaningful access to rights, resources, and opportunities. Together, let us build a future where equity is not just a goal, but a reality for all.
Our opening hymn is number 1008, which you can find in the hymnals by your seat. Diedrich is just going to give us a little introduction, and then we'll start right in, and you can just follow me. So, when our heart is in a holy place. When our heart in grace, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
By Steve Stock entitled Inherent Worth and Dignity. Inherent worth and dignity. So let me light our very fancy flame in quotes, if you can see it.
Barely.
Yeah,
But yeah.
I agree.
The other one's brighter.
Oh,
That's right.
well, let's have two,
There you
by
go.
all means.
Mhm.
And let's read these words together. We light this chalice to celebrate the inherent worth and dignity of every person, to reaffirm the historic pledge of liberal religion, to seek that justice which transcends mere legality and moves toward the resolution of true equality, and to share that love which is ultimately beyond even our cherished reason, that love which unites us.
So I'd like to share a reflection by Alandria Williams. Alandria Williams served as the co-moderator of the Unitarian Universalist Association alongside Reverend Barb Reeve from August 2017 to June 2020. Alandria was an incomparable leader, joyous presence, and an indomitable force in the UU community and beyond. She passed away in 2020 in a bright light gone too soon. But she is one of our blessed ancestors, and I would like to honor her today by reading a few of her words. Put your feet down because you're about to do embodiment. Close your eyes, breathe in, breathe out. When you hear the word liberation, liberatory spirit, liberatory life, liberatory possibilities, what does that conjure in your soul? When you hear we are a liberating force, spirit, light, and love, what does that conjure in your spirit? When you hear that we have the power to transform the world around us, what does that mean in your bones? When you hear we are the people we have been waiting for, we are, how does that feel in your blood? We are the light, we are the wisdom, we are the ancestors, we are those yet to come. How do we fully hold all of that in ourselves? Open your eyes, look at the people around you, and be ready to organize.
So our reading today comes from the Palestinian writer and poet Mohammed El-Kurd in his debut collection of poetry, Rivka. El-Kurd was born in 1998 in East Jerusalem, the West Bank. He emigrated to the United States and settled in New York to pursue higher education, but returned to East Jerusalem during the 2021 Israel-Palestine crisis. He currently resides in Jerusalem and is the nation's first Palestinian correspondent reporting on the Israeli-Gaza conflict. This poem is entitled Park Benches with Teeth. I live by people whose beds are a pillow and a blanket, a bus seat, a seatless bus stop, a cold, hard pavement, a potential they slept on or were robbed of. I live by people whose dreams are adequate but not selfish enough, whose dreams are without adjectives, postponed, pocket-sized, and famished. Told to find the glass in the sand, hunger dreams of spat-out generosity and cement. defanged. Not a dollar is a blanket, not a gilt is a table, to place meals on or discuss their humanity around. Not a sound nor a nod can make my fury monetary when I hear shivers crackling like fires from my bedroom. Not a poem nor a post is enough to turn the post they live under into a tent. Not one of them has gathered our prayers and weaved them into a home or a hoodie. I live by people for whom ceilings are luxuries, for whom park benches have teeth at night, pointing upwards and into sleep's flesh, and for whom jail cells are mandatory motels for when the city decides to dust its pillows. Every morning I pass them by, tessellated under bridges and into performative priorities with hooded identities, mostly of certain wrists that bend or slice open or contemplate death, scarred by cuffs or leashed by a misfortune or a debt. I live by people whose solace is a fruit well known and spoken ill of, whose solace is sins, sex, histories of moving bricks or throwing bricks at uniformed pigs, whose solace is a reminiscing of a bed. I live by a people whose mattresses are memory, are substance, are made featherless, fatherless with springs, elusive and marching upwards and into the backs of their necks, their spines, troubled, unfixed. Their stories come unhinged, their eyes after. A dollar or a supper, but not a dollar nor a supper, not a protest nor a pretense, not a protest nor a pretense.
It is my great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today, Ronnie Boyd. Ronnie is the Community, Faith, and Justice Organizer at East Bay Housing Organizations in Oakland, California. She is also a second-year student at Star King School for the Ministry in the Master of Divinity program. Ronnie organizes with Bay Area DRUM, which stands for Diverse and Revolutionary Unitarian Universalist Multicultural Ministries, and works to connect UUs and UU congregations to social justice movements. She has a diverse background, organizing for police and prison abolition and public education reform. Working in affordable housing advocacy was a natural next step, as the grief of housing injustice lay as a backdrop to the organizing Ronnie did in both Chicago and the Bay Area. She is an avid science fiction and fantasy fan with a love for Afrofuturism, Black contemporary writers, and womanist theology. In her spare time, Ronnie enjoys wholesome comedic television shows to remind herself that good people can and do exist in both this reality and alternative ones. Welcome, Ronnie.
Oh, thank you. That being read an introduction of yourself is always a little awkward. Do you smile? Do you laugh? What do you do when you're being talked about? But thank you all for inviting me here this morning. I feel very blessed to be in your company today. I know the theme is equity, but I also must share that in my field, May is Affordable Housing Month. So this is a very timely sermon that we're going to have today. But I want to start with something that happened yesterday. Yesterday I was privileged enough to attend the Bay Area Drum Spring Retreat. It's a time when UUs of color in the Bay come together, break bread, build community. And I had been looking forward to this event for weeks. Whenever UUs of color get together, it's always a party. Nourishing, enriching kind of party. As we shared parts of ourselves throughout the day, I was shocked to learn a detail about one of our elders. This elder shared with us that she was unhoused and had been experiencing housing insecurity for the better part of 4 years. I was shocked. This was someone who always showed up in community, someone who supported the Bay Area drum community, who always had time for the folks they cared about. But my shock subsided when I remembered that there is no cookie cutter image of an unhoused person. And unhoused folks are everywhere, in every community, and even UU communities. I have experienced housing insecurity. When I moved back to the Bay Area from Chicago in 2020, I was subletting a room in an intentional community home in Berkeley. This was right around the time when shelter in place hit, and the person I was renting from moved back home, meaning I had to find a new place to live. I wondered how I would find a place during the pandemic, pre-vaccination, on a very modest income. And I have to say that situations like these are not uncommon. I'm a community organizer who works in affordable housing, and I struggle with my own housing security. I can empathize with our residents when they share their stories of abusive landlords, evictions, and rising rents. I don't just come to this work because it's the right thing to do to support housing options for low-income folks, but because I have a vested interest in seeing change. And maybe 555 Kelly will be part of that change. I believe that housing is a human right. If you look at statistics in the Bay Area and California more generally, one might wonder if we all share housing as a value. To be clear, California has the most unhoused population than any other state, and most are unsheltered, meaning they're out on the streets. To say housing is a crisis is an understatement. It's an issue we Californians have been dealing with for years, but I hate to be the bearer of bad news. We're about 10 to 15 years behind in building the necessary housing it takes to house every person in need. Naturally occurring low-cost units are disappearing from the market, just gone. Instead, there has been a wholesale investment in luxury housing. This means that other housing, like affordable housing, is just not getting built. Nationally, the average home cost has increased significantly. Average home costs are 6 times the median income, as opposed to 2 times the median income in the late 1980s. That places the home price to an income ratio at 10 to 1. We could talk about capitalism and how the market doesn't cater to those who are of the lowest income, which is true. We can talk about how the majority of unhoused folks are folks of color, particularly Black, also very true. But what I want to focus on is commitment. For the most part, when I talk to my colleagues about the housing crisis, they have a firm understanding that the situation is just unfair. We speak of the economic and racial disparities. We talk on end about the speculative market and how it manipulates housing demands. We moan about the NIMBYs, which means not in my backyard, which means they tend to be opponents of affordable housing. These folks are the ones when discussions of building affordable housing come up, they complain about their property values going down or the character of the neighborhood changing, which is all just coded language for I want to live in a neighborhood with people like me, wealthy and white. As a liberal religion that is predominantly but not exclusively white, where the laws and policies of this country tend to be in our favor, I have a series of questions. How do we live out our UU values in addressing the housing crisis? Do UUs believe that housing is a human right? How can we work toward a decommodification of housing so everyone has a place to lay their head? Housing is a human right. A human right is something that cannot be denied to you regardless of who you are or where you're from. If you look into our values and how we practice them, we see glimpses of human rights. It's sometimes our conditioning that gets in the way of us truly living out our faith. As someone who works with faith leaders, I'm always in awe of how we can find the moral thread in any issue. Be it immigration, climate change, reproductive justice, education reform, policing, we frame the issue as one in which the Spirit can lead and provide. To pull from the Quran, 59:9-10, the ones who have set up housekeeping and faith before them should love anyone who has migrated to them. This calls up a sense of responsibility to community. Community. Black feminist poet Audre Lorde once said that there's no liberation without community. As humans, we are wired for community and connection. Despite what society tells us about individualism, we need one another to survive. So how are we in community with one another? Do we practice this in our everyday life? Church is a community, but what about beyond that? Are we connected to anyone that is unhoused? Have we had the opportunity to support someone who needed a place to stay? Or how are we practicing community when it comes to housing? I think that faith communities are uniquely positioned to deal with the housing crisis and to practice their faith as they show up. What I've seen in my time as a faith leader or organizer is that congregations love to donate. Let's have a food drive. Let's have a spaghetti fundraiser, all for a good cause. But what impact are we having, and how are we using our power collectively to create systemic change? I want to lift up faith-based organizations that have answered the call to be in a community with the unhoused. So, in South Berkeley, there's a church called McGee Avenue Baptist Church, which partnered with the Bay Area Community Land Trust to create a cooperative community. They refurbished 8-unit building on Stewart Street for new residents. For context, the building sat unused for years, and the church saw the Black population in Berkeley decline from 20% to 8%, with many of its congregants being priced out of Berkeley and moved into the suburbs of the Bay Area. The president of the board said that the project helped him expand his thinking to understand how an intentional housing community could serve his neighborhood. Well, what I want to share is that small site projects are propping up all over the state in the Bay Area. As housing continues to be unaffordable, that is more than 30% of one's income, people are looking for new and creative ways to get housed. And faith communities are answering that call, and Stewart Street Co-op is just one of the many examples. Last year, California passed Senate Bill 4, which was a bill that made it easier for faith-based institutions and nonprofit colleges to build affordable housing on their land. The bill opened up thousands of acres that went unused due to previously constraining laws. This, my friends, is an opportunity. An opportunity to put faith values to work and to contribute to the solution of a long-held systemic problem. Of course, not every congregation has land to build. I do not expect that. What can happen is advocacy. Advocate for affordable housing to be built in your community. More education on why housing remains a scarce resource, and challenging your ideas around housing as a commodity instead of a human right. There's work to be done on all fronts, and I can believe that you can do it. In our association, there have been conversations about our congregations being more like social clubs than religious communities. I can attest that I've experienced both from UU communities, and I prefer us more as a religious community than a social club. But it takes work. You have to know who you are and take a vested interest in your neighbors. You have to care. Practice caring and showing up. If we truly believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, we have to acknowledge that being on the street is not a dignified way to live. We belong to one another, and if we are going to house our neighbors, we're going to have to shift. Amen. Ashe, blessed be. Thank you.
And Ronnie, I feel like I speak for all of us by saying how inspired we are by you today. In the last 2 weeks, around the proposal at 555 Kelly Avenue, I've had the opportunity to listen and to speak to, but mostly to listen to, how others see this project, this potential project for affordable housing for senior farm workers. And what strikes me most is how much of this proposal for affordable housing at 555 Kelly involves acts of imagination. Why here? Because it's in the heart of things, centering visibly and for the first time farm worker needs. And why so big? Because the need for farm worker housing is big. Why so tall? Because the constraints around affordable housing push such buildings upwards. And by the way, why not see this building as a symbol of this community caring? A monument, in fact, to our caring, deeply caring for this usually invisible population. And so now I invite you to another act of imagination. When you contribute today to UUCC, in a practical sense, donating to UUCC keeps this community going, our services going, our relationships going. In a symbolic way, donating to UUCC represents a vote for this community, for the health and growth of this community, and a vote for lending its voice to the causes such as affordable housing that we embrace.
And now we'll extinguish the chalice, the invisible, but actually it's lit. And it requires just a little bit of imagination to know that it was so. But now, as it is extinguished, please read with me these words from Reverend Maddie Cervantes, entitled, "We Keep Its Light in Our Hearts." We extinguish this chalice, this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in until we are together again.
From Peter, Paul, and Mary, actually it's written by Pete Seeger and somebody else, and it's called If I Had a Hammer. So Diedrich will be introducing it for us, and then we'll start singing. If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning, I'd hammer in the evening, all over this land. I'd hammer out danger, I'd hammer out warning, I'd hammer out love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. If I had a bell, I'd ring it in the morning, I'd ring it in the evening, all over this land. Stand if you can. I'd ring out danger, I'd ring out warning, I'd ring out love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. If I had a song, I'd sing it in the morning, I'd sing it in the evening, all over this land. I'd sing out danger, I'd sing out warning, I'd sing out love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land.
Come on, we're all
Well,
Henry's
I
back.
got a hammer, and I got a bell, and I got a song to sing all over this land. It's a hammer of justice, it's
I'll remember that. Come back
Thank
in
you
a
all.
day.
Have a great day and come back next time.